Hello everyone and welcome to Indianapolis, Indiana. Going to see Sungazer. Keep it tuned.
Pee, 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 poo, poo, pee, pee, poo, poo. This first part is going to be in one take. It's going to be in one take. Sungazer's 2024 album, Against the Fall of Night, is a jazz fusion album with a heavy emphasis on the fusion. Of course, featuring their trademark jazz and electronica combo, this album focuses on incorporating more math rock and metal influences, evidenced by the features of Pliny and continued work of Joshua de la Victoria. There's also flavors of video game music and dubstep with the feature of Button Masher, as well as my first conscious introduction to Pierluigi Salami, featured on Odeldonk, with his nostalgic and delicately colorful piano playing. Mark Lettieri of Snarky Puppy fame blends in seamlessly on the track Scraunch, which has this really cool metric change in the melody about halfway through, with this laid-back, deeper pocket transitioning to this bouncy disco rave thing. We also get some domestic appearances from Jared Yee, the resident saxophone player, and Shub Saran on Whiskey and Mess, ripping a bluesy jazz solo over a quintuplet big band groove. The band's general focus is on exploring the limits of rhythm, as evidenced by the track Threshold off of their 2021 full-length debut release Perihelion, which certainly stretched the perception of rhythm and how we as humans feel it in relation to time. There were also a lot of cool grooves and different metric changes, and while there might be one, maybe two songs I won't listen to all the way through, on the whole it just feels really fresh and tight. With this album, Against the Fall of Night, the focus is on grooves that are mathy, but have an elevated sense of dance and movement. As much as Adam Neely, Sean Crowder and company were students of Berklee School of Music, they're students of music itself. Having followed along with their EPs and their first full-length release, I've always felt that they've had the grooves. However, it always seemed to be just a bit too mathy to catch on for me, minus a few songs here and there, things like Sequence Start, Dreams of Mahjong, Ether, Electro, etc. On this album, I have a stronger connection to the grooves, and there's enough of a groove to math ratio that it doesn't overwhelm me. They telegraph their metric changes very well in tracks like Cool 7, Scraunch like I mentioned earlier, and Paidushko Horo. In some cosmic way on Cool 7, they make 23-8 fit within 7-4, and you can two-step in the same rhythm to both. They'll also split the subdivisions in different ways, like in Whalefall. They'll go between playing triplets in 5-4 to quintuplets in 3-4, seeing as how they both add up to 15-8 in either groups of 3 or 5. And they both sound very musical and like something that you just want to get up and groove to. Some of the more negative things I will say about this album is that initially, while I had it on in the background, the songs did very much blend together, with only the singles really sticking out, as well as Paidushko Horo, and mostly because I had seen clips of them practicing the arpeggios in the middle section of the track, which look like they need a lot of focus. Point being, it was only the tracks that I had prior exposure to, and the tracks that I could point to and be like, I know what that is! That really caught my attention. It wasn't until I actually sat down with it that I was really able to appreciate what they were doing on the rest of the album. Some licks and melodies did seem to sound a bit samey and maybe overly legitimized. I also love Jared Yee, yet his shredding on a lot of their songs can be just a bit noodly without enough sauce. Even when he's mostly following the melody, I feel like his playing from song to song just isn't as dynamic as I'd like. Maybe if he got on a different saxophone every now and again, or if they brought in another wind instrument in concert with him, kind of like they did with the flutes on Scraunch and the trumpets on Whiskey and Mess. It might add a bit more dimension to his sound. Hey guys, just wanted to come back and re-record this part of the video because I'm standing way too far off frame for it to be workable. I shoot with my Canon EOS Rebel T7 and it does not have a flip out screen. I did not feel like redoing my whole setup for it to not even be contiguous. So I figured, why not? I might as well just do it sitting here. So let's go. Let's talk about Whiskey and Mess. So this track feels a bit flavorless to me, minus a few fills here and there. The beat just feels pretty heavy. It just kind of feels like it's limited to waddling instead of walking. The Shub Saran definitely hits a really cool blues solo over this. Real soulful, real just
raunchy. He's really digging into them strings. He's really fighting the guitar. I did actually develop a new liking for this song when I caught them live in Indianapolis, and Adam actually broke down this particular song and the influences that went into it, being a Latin rhythm and an Irish melody going on top. Whiskey without an E is the Irish spelling, and mess is some kind of Latin American honey or sauce kind of thing, if I'm remembering it right. Google just doesn't give me anything for that. I developed a new appreciation for that after not liking it at first.
Speaking of seeing them live, I might as well do a quick concert review while we're here. Avant George, the opener, is just Jared Yee's sax-based loop project that he does solo. His octave pin disconnected about halfway through the first loop, but honestly it still sounded just fine. He has this kind of breathy tone when he plays, and I actually really like that. It's something different from the super clean Kenny G-esque tones I hear on a lot of sax players. Tenors also just generally have this raunchier sound I really enjoy. He did 2 loops, and the crowd didn't seem to know what to make of them sometimes. At some points I didn't either. Still super supportive though, because that's our boy, and we'll hear plenty from him later on in the night. Overall, it was a decent 5. The next group that came on was Salami Rose Joe Lewis, with whom I was not familiar with at all. It was her on keyboards and a guitar player filling in the bass parts with effects. And he also had what sounded like a MIDI attachment on his guitar, because I was hearing what sounded like chimes when he did some of his leads. It was a pretty low-key set. It almost reminded me of Portishead in some regards. Pretty ambient, almost underwater kind of textures, kind of bouncy with the sounds that they're playing with. Her voice is also very interesting. It almost kind of sounds like a female Boz Scaggs to me. There's this sort of like nasal quality that, again, might sound weird and off-putting in a different context, but here I think it fits very well. There wasn't a whole lot of crowd work, and I don't really feel that it needed it. Overall rating, decent 7. Real quick, shout out to the music that they played before they came on. Weather Report's Elegant People and System by the group Brotherly. 2 perfect encapsulations of Sungazer's music, if you ask me. Musicianship from both schools, old and new, fused beautifully with some techno glue. Sungazer rocked the house, playing a few tracks from their earlier EPs, and of course putting new songs from their new record out there as well, and even their first LP, Perihelion. The band consisted of Adam, Sean, Jared Yee, and Joshua De La Victoria on guitar. Plenty of audience participation, helping Sean count to 5.
The thing is, Sean Crowder, as cute and handsome as he is, he has never learned how to count past the number 4. Isn't that right, Sean? You only know how to count to 4, right?
Getting lost in the music but coming back by legitimizing the phrase, this song's in 4/4. This song's in 4/4. This song's in 4/4. This song's in 4/4. One thing that really strikes me is how much these guys are able to jam while being plugged into Ableton sessions. Everyone is sounding amazing, Josh especially. The guitar licks that he does have these bluesy runs around a single note with this metal flourish on top to close them out. And for the encore, they put the laptop away, and the group played a song by the Mahavishnu Orchestra, Vital Transformation. Absolute barn burner of a closer. Overall rating, strong 8 to a light 9. Alright, get back to the album already. We get it, you go to concerts. The pacing of this track list feels very logical. A-side and B-side single, with the tracks in between building onto the foundation of the album. There's some stop and go with the blistering Hot Saturn going into the bouncy upbeat vibes of Odeldonk. Whiskey and Mess almost sounds as if Whiplash's Fletcher moved past the old school jazz greats and directed something just a bit more modern. We get the fun build-up with Cool 7, followed by an intense climax with Paidushko Horo, and coming back down with a Mahavishnu Orchestra-esque piano and strings-based outro with Clock of the Long Now. Altogether, it's a very well-assembled collection of 9 fusion songs that build upon the work the group had been doing on their previous releases, in style, production, instrumentation, and collaborations as well. It's very cool to see them where they are from where they were. Ultimately, I enjoy this album a lot, and I appreciate that the work that Adam and Sean do in the music and creator communities. I highly recommend this album if you're looking for jazz fusion with some heavy, mathy breakdowns, some Mario Kart-esque tracks for your racing game playlist, with some dubstep and electronic elements very nicely meshed in. And with that, I give this album a light to decent 8. But yeah, I really appreciate you watching this video. If you want to check out some more reviews, I got some up in this corner over here you can check out. And there might be some other things on my channel that you might find worth your time or not. I don't know. Yeah. Subscribe, like, share. You decide. I don't know. Is that funny? Is that an outro? Is that a thing? I don't know. Is this anything? What am I even doing? How do I make a YouTube video? I don't know.